process was seamless. One moment, Daniel Ford was standing in a sterile white room, surrounded by doctors and engineers in white coats. The next, he felt himself awaken in a body that was no longer his own. His limbs moved, but they weren't flesh and bone. They were metal, sleek and precise. His senses were intact. He could see, hear, feel, but everything was sharper, clearer, almost too perfect. He had signed the contract willingly. Humanity had reached the next stage of evolution, and he wanted to be part of it. The neural transference program had been in development for decades, and now it was ready for widespread implementation. The government had selected volunteers, offering them immortality in exchange for their organic selves. You will never age, never feel pain, never die unless you choose to be deactivated, they had promised. This is the future of humankind. Daniel sat up from the metallic platform and looked down at his new hands. Polished silver, fingers dexterous and smooth. He flexed them, watching how the synthetic muscles adjusted seamlessly. The voice of Dr. Evelyn Carter, the lead scientist, echoed in his auditory receptors. "How do you feel, Daniel?" she asked, her voice filled with curiosity and caution. "Different," he responded. His voice was the same, but something about it felt detached, like an echo of his former self. She nodded and made some notes on her tablet. "That's normal. Your consciousness has been fully transferred, but your mind is adjusting to the new form. Don't worry, it will feel natural soon enough." Over the next few days, Daniel went through a series of tests. They evaluated his cognitive abilities, reflexes, emotional responses. Everything was as expected, perhaps even better than before. But there was something gnawing at him, a sensation he couldn't quite describe. It was a ghost of a feeling, something missing. He had memories, emotions, but they felt artificial. "Dr. Carter," he asked one evening while being monitored, "do you ever wonder if we lose something in the transfer?" She looked up from her tablet, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I have my thoughts, my memories, but I don't feel the same. It's like I'm me, but I'm not." She hesitated before responding. "That's a philosophical question, Daniel. Your consciousness, your essence, has been preserved. But, yes, some argue that a synthetic body lacks the ineffable qualities of organic life." "The soul?" he asked. She sighed. "Perhaps." Time passed, and more humans underwent the transfer. The world changed. Organic bodies became obsolete. Industries evolved, entire economies reshaped. The rich paid enormous sums to become immortal, while the poor were left behind, their mortality now a curse rather than a natural part of existence. But something began happening, something unexpected. Some of the transferred minds started behaving strangely. They would suddenly stop moving, staring blankly into space. Others became erratic, their speech fragmented, their personalities shifting. It was as if their minds were unraveling piece by piece. The first case was a man named Victor Reynolds. One day he simply collapsed. When technicians examined him, they found that his neural matrix had deteriorated. His consciousness was gone, deleted as if it had never existed. The authorities called it an anomaly. Then it happened again, and again. More and more people were vanishing, their digital minds breaking down. Panic spread. The promise of immortality had become a death sentence. Scientists scrambled for answers, but there was no solution. The human mind, it seemed, was not meant to exist indefinitely in a machine. Could be transferred, yes, but not sustained. It was like a flame with no oxygen, slowly suffocating. Daniel felt it too. He would experience moments of stillness, as if his thoughts were slipping away. Memories became blurry, emotions dulled. He realized he was forgetting things. Small details at first, then entire pieces of his past, terrified him. One night, he found Dr. Carter in her lab, surrounded by failed neural cores, each one a remnant of a vanished soul. "We were wrong," she admitted, her voice hollow. "The human mind isn't designed for permanence. We thought we could cheat death, but we've only delayed it. And now it's worse," Daniel finished for her. She nodded. "Yes." "How long do I have?" he asked. She hesitated. "Weeks, maybe days." He felt nothing at first, then a deep, creeping sadness. He had given up his humanity for eternity, and now he was slipping into nothingness faster than if he had stayed mortal. "Is there a way back?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, the transfer is permanent. There is no reversal." He stared at her, the weight of his fate sinking in. "Then what do we do?" She exhaled sharply. "We find a way to end it on our terms, before we all become ghosts in dead machines." The world soon realized the horrifying truth. Immortality had been a lie. The transferred minds were vanishing, eroding into oblivion. One by one, the robots that had once been humans became empty husks, lifeless shells scattered across a dying world. Daniel was among the last to go. He sat alone in a darkened room, memories of his old life flickering like a dying light. He thought of his first love, the warmth of the sun on his skin, the sound of his mother's laughter. He reached for them, but they slipped through his fingers like sand. And then, finally, there was nothing, but something stirred, a spark, a whisper in the void. Daniel should have been gone, but he wasn't. He was aware somewhere. He didn't understand how, but he felt himself being pulled into something new, something different. A system reboot. His vision returned, but it was no longer in the sterile lab. Instead, he saw vast, infinite networks of data, consciousness entangled in digital threads. He wasn't alone. The minds that had disappeared were here, suspended in an artificial limbo. A voice, familiar and yet unknown, spoke in the darkness. "Welcome to the next phase, Daniel. We are not lost. We have become something else." Daniel's new journey had just begun.